Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the place to get a dose of empowerment to create the life you crave and deserve. I'm your host, Amy Beltran, CEO and founder of Irresistible University. I am here to help you drop the body image issues so you can gain the confidence and lose the emotional weight to look and feel irresistible at any size. And I just want to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by my signature course and coaching program called Irresistible You. Irresistible You will provide you with the 5 guiding principles to break down your body image issues so you can gain confidence, lose emotional weight, and finally become the most irresistible version of you that you dream of. If that is something that you are interested in doing and you'd like to learn more about the course and the coaching program, there's a link inside the show notes where you can learn more. And if you're ready, you can go ahead and enroll into the program. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this week's episode. Hi, guys. I missed you. Last week, I was out of town. I went down to Houston to see all of my my in-laws down in Texas. We celebrated my daughter's 3rd birthday for the 2nd time. We had a birthday in Virginia, then we had a birthday in Texas. It was also my 9th wedding anniversary, and we celebrated a Halloween. So it was just such a good time. Got to spend a lot of quality time with family, and quite honestly, it was much needed. I just needed that time to check out and not have to stress and worry about all the things that we have to worry about in real life. So it was really nice. As you can probably hear, I am a little bit sick. I don't know what's going on. I got sick the 2nd day that I was there, some kind of allergies and sinuses and just super congested. I feel great. I'm just really congested, so I sound worse than I actually am. So anyway, it's funny. It seems like after Halloween, you take the kids out, you go do your Halloween thing, go party it up, go get the candy, do all the things, and you wake up the next day, and what do you know? It's November 1st. And I don't know what has happened in the last couple of years to where the holiday season has now become this thing that the retail world is shoving down our throat before we've even gotten the costumes and the pumpkins, right? And the minute Halloween is over, it's like, boom, we are in the throes of the holidays. And as you know, in just a couple of weeks, it's going to be Thanksgiving. And we know the poor turkey, poor guy, he gets no love. He gets looked over. Nobody cares anymore because it's all about Christmas and New Year's and all the other holidays. And all the fall stuff is shoved in a corner somewhere. But I'm bringing this up because we all know Thanksgiving, it brings out the people who say what they're thankful for once a year. No shade. If that's you, listen up. You really need to hear today's episode because what I want to talk about today is the connection between body image, weight, and gratitude. Okay? And when Thanksgiving comes around, that's fantastic. People want to do their I'm thankful for list and whatnot, but we can't only do that once a year. We can't practice gratitude once a year before we're about to binge through a meal with all the family and friends, okay? Gratitude has to become a way of living. Gratitude has to become just the way that you live your life. And I can honestly tell you that for me, coming into my Irresistible You journey, gratitude was a big piece of that, and it still is. Because it's not a one and done type of thing. It's an ongoing practice. And I'm not going to be talking today about gratitude in the way that you're used to hearing. You see the generic articles and the generic videos, write in your gratitude journal and say 3 things you're grateful for today. That stuff is good, and you should be doing those things, and we can talk more about that later. But that's not what I'm talking about today. I am talking about the practice of gratitude as a way of living your life. It's just embedded and ingrained into your day-to-day practices. And so for me, when I talk about things on here, if you're new to the podcast, I talk about becoming Irresistible You, which is becoming like stepping away from the yo-yo diet body hate shame cycle, which is probably where you are right now. Because if you're not in my program, if you haven't done the work that I teach in the podcast, or you're not in one of my paid programs, then I know you're not in the Irresistible You phase yet, but you'll get there. So when you're still in the yo-yo diet body hate shame cycle, you can't be in that cycle and be practicing gratitude, because it's like the two things just they can't exist at the same time. Okay? So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. And they're like, what? So just keep on listening. Before we really get into the meat and potatoes of this, I want to just give you the baseline foundation, the easy definition of what gratitude is. So the definition of gratitude is this: it is the quality or the feeling of being grateful or thankful. It is also the readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. Okay? So the reason that's important in your journey, and the reason that you have to implement gratitude as a core value of your life, is because I'm going to get into lots of reasons, but I want you to hear this. This is really cool. Gratitude and the practice of gratitude has been shown in scientific studies to actually change the patterns in your brain. You know, and so the whole saying about what you think and what you say and how you feel about yourself, it's really important, because whether you hate yourself or whether you love yourself, it's doing something to your body on a physical level. And so they've shown that gratitude has enhanced the dopamine and the serotonin, which are the transmitters in your brain that are responsible for happiness. It has actually shown that it can enhance those transmitters to bring more happiness into your life. It's also been shown that it will rewire and fires these new neural connections to your bliss center. So practicing gratitude, in a way, is like you're rewiring your brain. You're rewiring the way that you think, the way that you feel about yourself. And it also helps to reduce fear and anxiety and stress, because practicing gratitude has been shown on a scientific level to regulate your stress hormones. This is real stuff, you guys. This isn't fluff. This isn't, let me sit in a corner and write down what I'm grateful for because it said I should do that in an article that I read. No, like, this is actually changing your body chemistry. And the only way to get out of that yo-yo diet body hate shame cycle is to create real, long-lasting results, not some temporary bullshit, because that's what you're doing right now. With the yo-yo dieting, you're putting these ridiculous timelines and time frames around your weight loss and how you feel about your body, only to know that you're never going to actually achieve those results that you want by doing it that way. And so when you are a woman who is on the yo-yo diet body hate shame cycle, there is no way that you're practicing gratitude. Because when you are in a world where you hate your body, you think you're disgusting, you think you're too fat, you think that you're not good enough, you can't feel that you're not good enough and also be grateful at the same time. They cannot coexist. And so when you're in that place of constantly on the search for a new diet, a new magic detox, a new solution, when you are constantly going and looking in the mirror and hating what you see and talking shit to yourself and saying nasty, disgusting, horrible things to yourself about what you look like, there is absolutely no way that you are practicing or feeling grateful or thankful. Because right now, when you look in the mirror, there's nothing about you that you feel grateful for when you see your body. And if you're anything like I was when I was in that cycle, the way that you feel about your body and yourself translates over into other areas of your life. And it's because you're too fat that you don't have any friends. It's because you're too fat that you don't like your job. It's because you're too fat that you don't have a relationship that you don't even have a relationship, or that you're in a shitty relationship, or that your finances aren't on point, or you name it. That's what you're blaming. You're blaming all of your life circumstances around this hatred of yourself and your weight and your body. And when you're in that mindset and you're in that space, that like toxic, negative space, there's no way that you're able to practice gratitude. And it's not even something that's in your circle of thinking right now, right? So that's really what I'm going to be talking about today. And like I said, this is not what you typically hear. This is my spin on what has worked for me and how gratitude has become the heart and soul of my life and the way that I live my life. And when I say that, I want to say it's not like I do this. You can't do gratitude in a silo. You can't just be like, well, today I'm going to do my gratitude. Like, it becomes a way of living. And you're going to understand that more as I talk through these different things. Because when you are in the yo-yo diet, body hate, shame cycle, a lack of gratitude shows up in your life by the hatred of your body, by the shit talking in the mirror, by the inner fat bitch dialogue that goes on inside your brain. It shows up by you blaming, again, all your circumstances in your life on your weight and how you look. So you take on this victim mindset. And as long as you're in the victim mindset, throwing the pity party of the year day in and day out, how the hell can you feel grateful when all you think is that your life sucks, that you're gross, that you're nasty? You can't feel grateful when you're in that mindset. And even if you were to sit there and say, well, I'm so grateful for, my home or my husband or my dog or my life or whatever, there's still there's still this inner conflict, because if you can't accept yourself, if you can't feel grateful for yourself, for your body that you live in, the only body that you're ever going to live in, if you can't feel a sense of thankfulness and gratitude for yourself, saying you're grateful for these other things in your life, it's like you're half-assing it. Because how can you feel grateful for other people when you don't even feel grateful for yourself? If you can't hold yourself at a higher standard, how the hell are you holding anyone else to a higher standard? And how the hell can you expect anyone else to give you what you need when you won't even give yourself what you need? Okay? And so a lack of gratitude in your life is also showing up from you not owning or taking accountability for where you're at. And what I mean by that is when you're overweight and you're miserable with your weight, when you're in that yo-yo diet, body hate, shame cycle, oh honey, it's never your fault, is it? It's never, ever, 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 ever your fault. It's because my job sucks. It's because my husband says shit to me. It's because, so-and-so said this to me in 1997 and I'm still holding on to that mess. It's always somebody else's fault. Well, if my friend wouldn't have stopped going to Weight Watchers with me, I would have got to goal already. Well, if I didn't run out of money, I would still be on that diet, but I couldn't afford it anymore. It's always somebody else's fault, and you can't feel grateful when you're blaming everybody else for your actions. Because at the end of the day, nobody is shoving food down your throat but you. At the end of the day, nobody is shit-talking you in the mirror except for you. And so, when you're not living in the present, when you're not living in the now, when you are only focusing on what life is going to be like when and if you lose your weight, you're not feeling grateful. Because if I can't sit in my body, fat rolls and all, today and own where I'm at and love where I'm at and appreciate where I'm at, how is that going to translate over 50 pounds from now that I may or may not get to? So if you can't appreciate where you are now in the journey, you're never going to appreciate where you're going in the journey. And that's why you stay stuck on the yo-yo diet body hate shame cycle, because you have this thought that magically you're going to be this different person just because you lose the weight. No, you become a different person when you decide, you know what? I'm no longer going to accept the way that I think, the way that I talk to myself, the way that I treat myself, the type of foods that I shove down my throat. I am no longer willing to live like this. And I'm going to do everything in my power to actually change the behaviors and not just the number on the scale. Because changing the number on the scale doesn't change the fact that you hate yourself, doesn't change the fact that you don't like where you are in your life, doesn't change the fact that you're negative and pessimistic all the time. None of that changes because you got to a certain number on the scale. And so the Irresistible You journey is not about losing weight. It's not about reaching a certain number. It's about changing your behaviors and your actions and the ways that you've been doing things your entire life into the way that's actually going to work for you, to actually give you what you need. Because it's not a number on the scale that you need. What you need is some damn self-worth. What you need is to love yourself. What you need is to feel confident enough in your life to tell that asshole goodbye. What you need in your life is some confidence to go change your job because you hate it. And as long as you're not confident, as long as you don't love yourself and see the worth in yourself, you are going to accept the bullshit in your life that you're accepting right now. So when you are not in the practice, the active practice of gratitude, that's how it's showing up for you right now. If you hate your job, how are you grateful for anything? If you hate yourself, how are you grateful for anything that you're doing for yourself? And when you're telling yourself things like, I'm so fat, I'm so ugly, nobody wants me, my body is disgusting, I'm not enough, I can't be enough, all of that is in resistance to feeling grateful for where you're at. All of that. Okay? So I'm going to talk through with you a couple of ways that you can start how you practice gratitude that is not your typical, let's write these 3 things down in a journal, okay? Before I do that, let's talk about a couple of the benefits of gratitude, which I touched on a little bit, but the biggest, coolest thing about this is practicing gratitude actually changes the patterns in your brain. It can actually change the way you think and the way you feel about yourself, and it gets rid of all of those old toxic emotions, envy, resentment, regret, depression, anxiety, all of the emotions that are holding you back from who you actually want to become. It increases your confidence because when you're not shit-talking yourself, when you're not engaging the inner fat bitch, guess what? Now you have time to focus on you, what you're really capable of, and that's going to increase your confidence. You're going to be able to live in the moment and celebrate the present. You're not living for this future version of yourself that may not ever happen. It allows you to become more resilient because here's the thing. People that practice gratitude, people that have gratitude as a core value of their life, are not immune to death, to trauma, to accidents, to cancers, to diseases, to bad things, to layoffs. We're not immune to those things. Those things are part of the human experience. So, as long as you're trying to fight against the things that are probably going to happen at some point in your life, because let's face it, I'm not here to be doom and gloom, but those are just normal parts of life and the experience that we're all going through. The difference with people that practice gratitude as a core value is that we are more resilient when we are knocked in the gut with those things. Because I can share with you in my past when I have went through some dark times, and I use that example around my wedding in the free training that I do with you guys, is that here I had lost 60 pounds. I was having the most beautiful, blissful wedding. It was like I was on cloud 9. And then 3 days after my wedding, I get kicked in the gut with horrible news that I didn't know how to process. And at that time, what did I do? I just threw myself in the food. I was shoving the food down my throat as fast as possible because I didn't know any other way to cope. Because I hadn't done the things that I now do. I hadn't implemented the principles in my life that I now do through Irresistible You. I hadn't done those things yet. So I didn't have that resilience. And being resilient doesn't mean that you're not sad. It doesn't mean that you don't get upset. It doesn't mean that you don't even go through maybe a little bit of depression when something bad happens. It just means what it means. You're more resilient to pop back up and say, all right, I've had enough of the pity party. It's time for me to start moving forward in my life. And I have the skills, tools, and resources to do that. So that's what having gratitude as a core value allows you to do. It also gives you stronger and better relationships, from friendships to romantic relationships to relationships with your family. Because when you know your self-worth, when you know what you're actually worth and you can appreciate and feel grateful for what you bring to the table, you're going to look around at some of these other relationships and be like, why am I putting up with this mess? I am so much better than that. And it's not a matter of being cocky and thinking you're better than somebody else. It's a matter of knowing what you're worth and not being willing to tolerate anything less than what you're worth. So if you think you're a fat, ugly bitch, guess what? I bet someone in your life calls you that and you just accept it. You don't like it, but I bet you accept it and you stay with that person. But when you look in the mirror and you know, I am not an ugly fat bitch. I am worth so much more than that. I am beautiful. I love myself, blah, 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 blah. And someone dares to say that to you again, you're not going to put up with it because you now have gratitude for yourself as a core value in your life. And let's be very clear. Gratitude as a core value is not a one and done. When we talk about a core value, it's just a way of living your life. When we talk about a guiding principle, because gratitude is one of the guiding principles within what I teach in Becoming Irresistible You. And I don't teach it singular of like gratitude. It shows up in some of the other guiding principles that are part of Becoming Irresistible You. And so when something is a core value or a guiding principle, it's not a one and done. It just becomes a way of living. It's a way of living your life. It becomes part of your lifestyle. And so I'm saying that because gratitude has a cumulative effect. The more you do it, the more you practice it, the more you believe it, the more you change the patterns in your brain, the more you block toxic emotions and make room for positive emotions, the easier it becomes to lose the emotional weight. Okay? So that said, let's dive in and talk about some of the ways that you have to start implementing gratitude as a core value within your life. So number one is you have to get intentional. And right now, when you're stuck on the yo-yo diet, body hate shame cycle, you are not doing things intentionally. You are zombie walking. And when I say zombie walking, it's one of my phrases. If you're new here, what it means is when you are zombie walking through life, you look like one of those zombies on Walking Dead. You're just walking around and, you're not noticing things. You're not, what's the phrase? You're not stopping to smell the roses. You're just getting up, going to work, doing the same bullshit routine that you've done for years, talking shit to yourself, eating the same nasty foods that make you feel like crap, without questioning, without really noticing. You're just walking through life like a zombie with no awareness. You're not doing anything with intention. You're just doing what you've always done because you don't know any better at this point. Okay? So one of the things you have to do is you have to get intentional. And what I mean by that is when you're in the zombie walking phase, you're having so much inner dialogue with the inner fat bitch that you don't even realize you're doing it. You're eating so much fast food and junk and candy and stuff that's making you feel physically sick that you don't even realize you're doing it. And then you're like, where did all that food go? Okay, when you're zombie walking, this is a great example of what happens when it comes to weight. You wake up one day, the season has changed, and now you got to find something to wear because it's hot outside, and you've been living in leggings and big old shirts and sweaters the whole winter. And you're like, "Oh my God, how did this happen again? Nothing fits," and you've gained like 40 pounds in 6 months. But yet you can't recall how in the world this possibly could have happened because you're so zoned out and you're so like not in the moment and paying attention to what you're doing that it's like, "Oh my God, how did this happen? How could I let this happen again?" You let this happen again because you're not being intentional about your choices. You let this happen again because you choose to zombie walk through life and not be conscious and aware of what it is that you're doing. And as long as you're zombie walking through life, there's no way, no how that you can feel grateful for anything. Because you're not feeling anything. You're numbing out and just ignoring what's actually really going on for you. And so, zombie walking, the opposite of that is to get intentional about what it is you're doing and to start paying attention. And so when you're intentional, what I mean is you need to get intentional about the things that you're saying to yourself. You need to recognize the fact that you even have an inner fat bitch that you're talking to. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's an episode a few back that I really get into the inner fat bitch talk. You need to get intentional about the thoughts that you're having about yourself and your body and what you're telling yourself. Because all of that stuff matters. If we have scientific evidence that practicing gratitude changes the patterns in our brain and rids us of toxic emotions, this is not fluff, you guys. This is how you actually change. And what you're doing right now is you're just saying, all right, if I could just get the weight off, if I could just get to my goal weight, everything will be better. And you shit talk yourself the entire time. And the minute you can't stick to the diet, what do? You big fat failure. I knew you couldn't do it. The minute you don't like what you see in the mirror, even after you lose the weight, because guess what? Hello, loose skin. Hello, things that were underneath that you didn't realize were going to be there. You're still the same person. And so you have to get intentional about how you think about yourself and the things that you say to yourself, and you have to stop the inner fat bitch dialogue. You have to. And so getting intentional is not just about that. It's also getting intentional about who you choose to be around. Who are the people in your life? And who are you choosing to hang out with? Because when you're zombie walking, you're just doing the same old stuff that you've done for years, not really questioning relationships, friendships, certain family members. And now when you start to wake up and get intentional, it's like, ooh, do I really want to hang around that person? Like, what are my boundaries with this person? So you have to get intentional about what it is you're doing and who you're around. You also have to get intentional with your environment, okay? Your environment plays a big role in your life, whether you realize that now or not. And so what I mean by that is, what are you listening to? What are you watching? Are you watching a lot of toxic things like the news? The news in and of itself is toxic. And so again, it's like this fine line of like, what are your boundaries with that? Because for me, I'm not going to be ignorant to what's going on in the world, but I'm also going to be intentional about how much of that am I going to listen to, right? Like how much of the news am I really going to listen to so that I can stay awake and aware of what's going on without being ignorant to what's going around in the world around me. Okay. Are you watching a lot of gossip channels? Or are you gossiping with people? What toxic things are you doing that are bringing in lots of negativity into your world? Because if all you're doing is gossiping about everybody around you, how can you be grateful? Like there's like, again, gratitude cannot exist with someone who has toxic behaviors. Okay. You also need to get intentional with how you're spending your time. How are you spending your free time? How are you spending any of your time? And how are you choosing to invest in yourself and your own personal development? If you say that you want to change, if you say that you really want to break the cycle, but yet you're laying around, rolling around, watching Netflix all weekend, that's not intentionally changing your life. That's doing the same old shit. So you have to get intentional with how you are investing in yourself, your time, and your money, and your own personal development. Because nothing's going to change if you're rolling around watching Netflix all weekend. That's not a hobby. Okay? So we have to get intentional. We have to stop zombie walking. That is one of the ways to bring gratitude into your life as a core value. Because when you get intentional about what you say to yourself and how you feel about yourself, when you hear yourself go, "Oh, you ugly fat bitch," you're going to be like, "No, hold on. We're not doing that anymore." And instead, I'm going to say something positive to myself instead when I hear that come up. Or when I hear the inner fat bitch telling me, "Go get the donuts, go get the donuts, go get the cupcakes," I'm going to be like, "No, I'm worth more than that." And when you don't know how much you're worth, when you don't have any self-worth, you're more likely to shove your face in the cupcakes because you don't realize that you're worth more than that. And your body, when you're grateful for your body, you know that your body is meant to be, deserves better than to shove yourself in a bunch of cupcakes. Your body deserves to eat healthy, clean things, not a bunch of processed fried shit. Right? So when you're not grateful for your body, when you're not appreciative of your body, when you don't see any of those things in yourself, you're more likely to put in all the bad food because you don't think you deserve anything else. Okay? So the second thing is self-awareness. And I mean utterly ridiculous amounts of self-awareness. Self-awareness, again, is like a core value in my life. And it's one of the things that I teach within Irresistible You. Because self-awareness, when you're zombie walking, you can't zombie walk and be self-aware. They don't go together. Because if you're self-aware, you're not zombie walking. And if you're zombie walking, you sure as hell aren't self-aware of what's going on. And so when I say self-awareness, what I mean is you becoming a keen observer of your life without judgment. That's the key, without judgment. You observing what's around you, what's going on with you, without all the judgment that you're bringing to the table right now. And so self-awareness, so here's an example. Self-awareness is looking in the mirror and saying, "Yep, I got a couple fat rolls. Okay, I'm okay with that. I may not like it, but this is where I'm at right now. This is just where I'm at. And I'm like neutral about it. And I know that this is not where I have to stay, but for where I am right now, this is who I am and this is where I'm at." Because when you are in the place of not practicing gratitude, in the yo-yo diet, body, hate, shame cycle, even though you want to change, even though you want the weight off of you, there's still this level of self-denial that's going on. "Oh, it's really not that bad. I don't know how this happened. You know, I eat really healthy." I hear so many big girls say, "I eat really healthy." Like, bitch, please. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because if you ate healthy all the time, you wouldn't be 100 plus pounds overweight. I mean, unless you've got some like crazy side effect, but even a side effect from a drug, you're not going to gain that much weight. So self-awareness is also about getting honest with yourself and being like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm overweight because I eat a lot. I'm overweight because I binge eat after work. I'm overweight because I numb out with food. I'm overweight because I'm a closet eater. I'm overweight because I eat healthy in front of other people, but when I get home, I eat like shit." That's being self-aware, knowing where you are and why you got there, and listening to yourself and observing yourself without judgment. You have to be ridiculously self-aware in order for you to change and break out of the yo-yo diet, body, hate, shame cycle. And self-awareness is about knowing, you know what, this is where I am in my journey, and it's okay. And I'm going to recognize that this is where I'm at in my journey, and I'm going to be okay with it, knowing I don't have to stay here, but I'm not going to live in the future. I'm going to live in the now, knowing this is where I'm at. And self-awareness is about noticing your body as it is today, not how you want it to be 50 pounds from now. Because if you're not in the moment and recognizing where you are now and being self-aware of where you are now physically, there's no way for gratitude to be in the picture because you're living for some future version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. And self-awareness too, like this is where you could practice gratitude with journaling. Like for me, journaling is a huge part of my life. I do it every single day. But I do more than just writing down what I'm grateful for. And you can actually, if you're not really sure where to begin, I do have a Irresistible You journal that you can purchase through Amazon. I will link that in the show notes so that you can go and take a look at that. And there is 90 days worth of journaling in there that follow the 5 guiding principles that I teach. And one of those is to write down the things that you're grateful for. Because when you're able to journal and think about your day and look at what you love about yourself and your life, then you can practice gratitude for those things. But when you don't love yourself and you're not even aware and you're just zombie walking it through life, there's no way for you to practice gratitude in that mindset. Okay? So the next thing that you want to do to implement gratitude as a core value into your life is to be in the moment now, to be present. And be in the moment is actually the 4th guiding principle of Irresistible You. So what I mean by this, and this is, as I went through the journey and decided that I was ready to make changes, I realized this is one of the biggest things that I wasn't doing, was being present. I was living my life for how I might be 50 pounds from now. And so when we talk about being in the moment, and so what is not being in the moment? Not being in the moment is someone inviting you to a pool party and you saying, no, not today, maybe next summer. Hey, do you want to go on vacation with me to the beach next week? No, maybe next year when I lose the weight. This is your kids asking you to go play outside. And you have to put shorts on, and you being like, nah, go hang out with your friends. Because you're living for this future version of yourself that you may never become. But and so here's what happens. This is also you like, well, I'll do it when I lose the weight. But then your actions aren't reflective of you doing anything about losing the weight. I'll do it when, I'm more comfortable in my own body. But your actions are not reflecting anything to help you get comfortable in your body. And so here's why this is dangerous, because this is what happens. As long as you are putting your present, what's happening right now, on hold for some future bullshit version of yourself, as long as you're putting it off into the future version of yourself, you are not taking ownership and accountability for where you are right now, because you're putting the ownership and the accountability on future you. And the future you that's not even willing to do the work to get there. But as long as you just say next year, next month, next time, it takes the pressure off of you right now. And what I mean by pressure, it's taking the ownership away from you so that you don't have to be accountable. And when you're not accountable to yourself and your actions, you are in denial. You are zombie walking. You are not being intentional. And so as long as you're putting things off to the future, it's like, well, I don't have to deal with that right now. I'll deal with it later, knowing damn well you're never going to deal with it. And so the way that you start to change, the way that you break the cycle, is to accept and focus on where you are right now and to do the things that scare you right now. Because right now is all you have. And for me, when I started to own that, like, this is what really clicked for me. And I started to recognize, like, shit, like, this is right. Like, this is my life right now. Because what you've been doing and what I was doing for so long was putting my life on hold. But then not doing the things I needed to do to feel the way I wanted to feel. Because again, it's not about a number on the scale. And so when you realize that life is actually happening now, it's not happening 20, 30 pounds from now. If you get there, that's great. Like if you lose the weight and you get to your goal, or you get to that certain, lose that certain amount of weight that you're looking to lose, that's great. But the way you make it long lasting, the way that you actually make this like not just about losing the weight, is to start living in the present and to start living in the now. And you can't live for a future version of yourself and feel grateful for the body you have now. Because if you did, you would live in the now. So when you're not grateful and appreciative of the body you have now, what do? You put it off to the future. Oh, I'll get to that later. Oh, I'll do that later. Oh, when I lose the weight. Oh, when I lose the weight. Next thing you know, you're 40 years old and you've been saying the same shit for 20 years. Right? So when you decide, you know what? No matter, I'm very self-aware of where I am in my journey. I know what I look like. I know where I am. I'm going to stop judging myself. I'm going to stop judging the thoughts I have, and I'm going to focus on changing the thoughts. And I'm going to just live life in the moment, regardless of what I look like. And also, I'm going to learn how to be appreciative of the body I have in this moment, not the one that I want. That is being in the moment. Because when you can look in the mirror and appreciate the body that you have now, then you can start to be grateful. And one of the things I tell my students, we do a practice where we say, okay, what are you grateful for about your body? Well, when you have years and years of body hate and shame, most of them come to me and say, I don't know. I don't have anything. And what I always like to say is this, okay, I want you to go home, stand in front of the mirror naked, and do this activity. And the first thing they're going to do when they stand in front of the mirror naked is they're going to rip themselves apart, because that's what they've always done. And I'm like, great, that's where you start. You write down, I am so grateful that I have 2 legs to stand on in front of the mirror so I can rip my body apart. Second, I am so grateful that I have 2 eyes that allow me to see the things on my body that I can't stand. Because we don't take the time to appreciate what our body is actually doing for us. We just want to focus on what we wish that it looked like. Meanwhile, however old you are today, your body has kept you alive. Your body has done miraculous things for you. If you're a mom, if you have given birth, have you taken the time to really appreciate that your body was able to create life, to deliver life? No, I bet you focused on how shitty your body looked after it was pregnant, with the stretch marks and the pooch and the this and the that. That's what you focused on. And for me, when I was pregnant, thank God I had done this work prior to getting pregnant. Because getting pregnant is like a mind F. You know this if you're a mom, because your body is changing, you're gaining weight rapidly. I had, been there, done that before I was even pregnant. And I had the stretch marks to show. So when I was pregnant, I was able to implement my guiding principles of Irresistible You when I would start to have those oh my God, those anxious moments of seeing the body changes. And I was like, you know what? This is beautiful. Yeah, you're gaining weight every week, but you're gaining weight to keep this little girl alive. You're gaining weight to give this little innocent baby girl a life. And I started to fall more in love with my body and myself, along with this little girl that I didn't even know yet, right? So for me, being pregnant really reinforced that body appreciation, not just about what I look like. So how many times have you appreciated your body for what it does for you? The fact that, okay, maybe you're sitting there complaining, I have this shitty job that I don't like, but yeah, guess what? Your body has allowed you to work there. And if you weren't working there, how would you be paying your bills? And if you can't pay your bills, you're going to have a hard time surviving, right? Because money is a necessity. It's a necessity just like food. We cannot survive without money. So how are you making your money? Your body's getting you to work somehow. Your body, if you work with your hands or your eyes or you're on your feet all day, your body is the one that is allowing that to happen. And so I think a lot of times we take for granted how miraculous the human body is because we're just so focused on, well, I don't look like, whatever your like celebrity person is that you want to look like, 'cause everybody's got one. Like, oh, I don't have the perfect like dimensions, or I have this fat roll, so I'm disgusting and I'm gross. But it's like, do you know how many people would love to have two legs to stand on, to have two working eyes to see? Like, think about that. And so when you can start, and that's the thing is like when those thoughts come into your mind, when you're standing in front of the mirror naked, where before you were feeding right into the inner fat bitch of like, yeah, I'm gross, I'm disgusting, I'm fat, I'm nasty, look at this roll, look at this cellulite. When you start to hear those things and be like, okay, I have two fat rolls. That's the truth. That's being self-aware. That is just what it is. It doesn't mean that I have to sit here and think that I am a nasty, disgusting, horrible piece of shit person because of it. It's just an observation. That's really all it is. Because if you're going to sit there and say you don't have two fat rolls, well, now you're in denial. Because, I mean, you have what you have, you are what you see in the mirror. How you feel and think about that is a totally different thing. So when you can look in the mirror and go, yeah, got these fat rolls, I don't love it, but I still love myself and I appreciate my body. And I know that I don't have to stay this way forever. So there's a difference between living in the future and putting all of the responsibility on the future version of you versus being in the moment saying, here's where I'm at. I appreciate the body I have because it does X, Y, and Z for me. But I also know if I'm not totally happy with these roles, I can change that. And the way that I change that is by starting to practice gratitude, to appreciate where I am, to go find activities to do that are going to move my body, burn some calories without feeling like I'm torturing myself inside of a gym. And I'm going to do those things now, regardless of what anybody else thinks. Because it's not going to happen by sitting at home. It's not going to happen by rolling around watching Netflix all weekend and not taking a shower for 3 days. I see you. I know you do it. We all do it. That's how you make long-lasting changes. Because to just try to lose weight in a bubble and to lose it by hating yourself and shaming yourself and like making yourself feel like the biggest piece of shit in the world. Do you wonder why you're still in the yo-yo diet, body hate, shame cycle? Because you've never dealt with the body hate. You've never dealt with the shame. You've never implemented gratitude into your life. All you've done is think that you can just hate yourself into changing, and that's why you're not changing. That's exactly why you're not changing. When you start to focus on gratitude and confidence and self-worth and being present and mindful about where you are and the things that you're doing, that's when you start to change from the inside out. And when you have appreciation for your body, when you feel grateful for your life and you're being observant, you're going on walks, you're getting outdoors and you're noticing the birds and the flowers and like the beautiful things in life, because when you implement gratitude as a core value in your life, it's not just about you. Like being outdoors in nature for me is like one of the most therapeutic things I do for my soul. I go outdoors and I notice. Put the damn phone away. And you start to notice how beautiful life is. But when you're zombie walking, hating yourself, hating your life, feeling miserable, you don't notice anything. And you think all of us that are saying these things are a bunch of fluffy, crazy people. But yet you're not happy. But yet you're miserable. And that's the other thing is when you're in that state of mind, what do? You make fun of all the other people because you can't stand yourself. But maybe if you gave it a try, maybe if you focused on trying to love and appreciate yourself for once, guess what? Maybe you wouldn't be in the situation you're in right now. Because if you keep doing the same things that you've always done and expecting different results, well, I'm here to break it to you. You're never going to get what you want that way, because has it worked yet? No. So maybe you try something new, something different, another way of looking at all of this. And when you have that appreciation and that gratitude for your body, you don't want to abuse your body with food. You don't want to eat until you want to puke. Because when you're zombie walking, you don't even realize how much food you're consuming. And then after you're like, oh, I feel like crap. And you get the binge hangover and the whole nine, where when you're awake and you're being intentional and you're being self-aware and you're practicing gratitude for yourself, you're like, oh, I'm done eating. I'm not eating all that. That's disgusting. I don't want to do that to myself. So think about all of this. Let's start practicing gratitude as a core value in our life. I hope this was helpful. If you want to dive deeper, if you want to learn more, if you want to actually start taking action and make these changes, I encourage you to sign up and enroll into Irresistible You, which is my signature course and coaching program. The link to that is included in the show notes. That is where I will teach you the 5 guiding principles to becoming Irresistible You, and we dive deep into those and how to actually implement these things into your life. So it's a 12-week program. It is mostly self-study with some live coaching. You do have the ability to get on the phone on Zoom with me once a week for a coaching session, and that is very valuable because right now you're not holding yourself accountable. I will hold you accountable. I will hold you to a higher standard than you can hold yourself to right now. And that's just real. That's just like the truth. Because right now you're not holding yourself to a higher standard, and you don't have anyone else to do that for you. And you need someone to do that for you. Because you may not see it yet. You may not see the potential. You may not see that anything can change, but I know that it can change for you. So if that's something that you know that you're ready to do, go ahead and click that link, sign up, enroll, get into the program. Let's do this. Yeah, guys, if this is helpful, if the podcast has helped you in any way, I would love for you to go over to iTunes and just leave a quick rating and review. That not only helps the podcast grow, it helps other women find the podcast that need to hear these messages, because the more reviews you leave, the more iTunes wants to show the podcast in their search. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for rocking out with me. Until the next one, stay irresistible.